Welcome to another episode of Trends and Ideas. I'm your host, Isabel Sender, and our guest today is S&P Capital IQ's global equity strategist, Alec Young, who proposes investors allocate more of their emerging market holdings to higher growth frontier markets. Thanks very much for joining us today, Alec.
Great to be here, Isabel.
Well, talk to us a little bit about the emerging markets, which have been hit hard of late and last year, but you're not suggesting that investors flee, correct?
No, we think investors should maintain their exposure to the developing world, but rather than adding more money to emerging markets, the BRIC economies, look at the frontier markets, which is actually a separate asset class and includes less liquid, smaller emerging markets that are much earlier in their growth curve. So they're kind of where China and India were 15 or 20 years ago. They've got a heck of a lot more consumer infrastructure growth ahead of them, and they've been doing extremely well even while emerging markets have been struggling recently.
Very interesting, but aren't there risks to increasing the exposure, you think?
Not really. Surprisingly enough, frontier markets have a lower standard deviation or a lower risk profile than emerging markets, because a lot of what causes emerging markets to be volatile is challenges that may be coming up in Europe or Japan or in the broader world. And emerging markets today, whether it's Brazil or China, are very connected to the developed world. Those connections don't exist with places like Africa and other frontier markets. So it leads them to have a much lower correlation than emerging markets to developed markets. They can zig when the rest of your portfolio zags, and they're also, surprisingly enough, less volatile.
Great. Well, how do investors play the theme, you think? What's the best way?
Well, the asset class is evolving, and early on, a lot of the ETFs were too concentrated. It was 50% of your money in one country. We now have the iShares ETF for frontier markets, ticker FM, Frank Mary, and it tracks the broad MSCI Frontier Market Equity Index. So it's got a significant holdings in the Middle East, but also in frontier markets in Latin America, emerging Asia. So it's broadly geographically diversified. In addition to an ETF strategy, we would also recommend investors consider active management, because inefficiencies in frontier markets, we think, create a lot of opportunities for active managers.
Terrific. Well, we appreciate you sharing your views with us today, Alec. And for more of Alec's research on emerging markets and his thought leadership on frontier markets, we encourage our subscribers to read our Trends and Ideas story on MarketScope.com. It's called Turning to the Frontier Markets. We also encourage subscribers to visit investment strategy content on MarketScope.com and follow Alec's Twitter account, which is @YoungSPCapIQ. Until next time, thanks for watching or listening. I'm Isabel Sender for S&P Capital IQ.